All right, so today we're talking about formulas. So formulas is basically where you're probably not going to have numbers. You're probably just going to have variables, and then you're going to have to solve for one of the specified variables. So in this section, you're going to see a couple of different types of problems. One is going to say, one of them is going to say solve for the remaining variable. So what that's trying to do is this, is that they're going to give you a formula, like for example, D is equal to RT, okay? And then, so let me do this. So it'd be given the formula D is equal to RT, and it's going to tell you that D is equal to 111 and T is equal to 37, okay? So with that being said, what they want you to do is put it in. So the way we would solve it is put D in for D, so 111 is equal to, R is not given. So I'm gonna put R right there in red. And then T is, so when it's two letters next to each other, that means that they're multiplying each other, okay, with no operation there. So it's R times 37. So the way we would usually write this, we usually don't write R 37, okay? So we would write down as 111 is equal to 37R, okay? So now what it wants us to do is the remaining variable is R. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by 37 so that R is equal to, let's see, 111 divided by 37 is equal to 3. And that would be my answer. Okay, so this is one of the types of problems you're going to see. These are the easier of the problems. Okay. Now, you could get a little bit harder problem, which would be, it's going to say solve for the indicated variable. So solve for the indicated variable. Okay, so it is very different. So solving for the remaining variable means that they're going to give you numbers and then you're going to have one variable remaining and then you're going to solve for that. Okay, where solve for the indicated variable, it might not be giving you values for those variables. So for example, you're going to be given, let me see, F is equal to 5G, and they're going to say, and then they're going to indicate the variable that they want you to find. So they're going to say 4G. Okay, so they're going to give you the formula, and then they want you to solve for G. In other words, get G by itself. So let's write it this way. Let's say that that is going to be red. So what I'm going to do is, So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this as F is equal to 5G. So I want to get G by itself. So if I want to get G by itself, what do? I divide both sides by 5. So that means G is going to equal to F divided by 5. And that's it. So yes, it looks different, right? It looks very different, and you're probably pretty scared of it, but it really isn't a big deal, okay? So if you notice, there's really nothing different from doing this if it was Here, let me do it this way. There's no difference if this was saying 10 is equal to 5g and you guys get g by itself. You would just divide by 5 and you get g equals 2, right? So there's no difference there, no matter if there's numbers or variables. The only difference is that we can actually do that piece. But since we can't, we don't, okay? So please don't think that you're like doing something wrong, because chances are you're not, all right? So let's try another example. So these are examples. Let's try another example. So let's say I'm given y is equal to x plus c, and I want you to solve for x, okay? So I'm going to say y is equal to x plus c. So I want to get x by itself. Well, what do I have to get rid of? I got to get rid of the c. So I subtract c over. So I get x is equal to y minus c. And that's it. Just because I can't subtract the y and the c, I'm done. Okay? Because they're not like terms. You're like, hey, give me a harder one. Okay. Let's see here. Example. So it's going to say, it's going to be given b is equal to 4g divided by n. And it's going to be solve for n. Okay? So let's solve for n. So in other words, I want to rewrite this as v is equal to 4g over n. And I got to get n by itself. Okay? So this problem here, number one, n is in the denominator. So I got to kind of get it moved, right, to the numerator. Because everything that I solve for is basically the numerator. Remember how when we're solving, we want 1x or 1g, right, positive 1. So same thing here. So I got to get it into the numerator. So how do I do it? So here is what you would do. I would multiply. So if this was a 2 and I want to get 4g by itself, then you would just multiply by n. Okay? So when I do that, what happens? I get NV. I get NV is equal to 4g. Well, how do I get this n by itself? Divide off the v. So now I got n is equal to 4g over v. And that's all. Okay? So again, if you have to, pretend it's numbers, right? So let's say it's this, right? Let's say it is, let's say I'm going to say it's 22 is equal to 4 times 3 divided by n. And I got to get n by itself. So I'll still multiply n on both sides. So I'll have 22n is equal to 4 times 3, or 12, right? And then I would just divide off the 22. And then I have n equals 4 times 3 over 22. Same exact idea, right? So the g I call 3, so there's your 3, right? The v I call 22, and there's your 22, and it's still the same thing, okay? So same idea as if I was doing it with numbers, okay? So the only variable that I want to leave as variable is whatever I have to solve for, okay? All right, let's try something else. Ooh, this one is usually good too. So example. So let's say I got S is equal to 2k plus 2z, and it wants you to solve for k. Okay. So if I had, so in other words, I want S equals 2k plus 2z. So I get k by itself. Okay. So what's attached to the k? The 2 is. What's attached to the 2k? The 2z. So what do I have to do? I got to get rid of the 2z. And it's addition. So I got to subtract the 2z. So I'm going to get S minus 2z is equal to 2k. Okay. Same thing as if I had a problem over here that said, I don't know, that S looks like a 5 is equal to 2k plus, let's make 2z a number, right? If it was 2 times, let's say 3, okay? So if I was to do this problem, I'll have 5 is equal to 2k plus 6. Well, how do I find k? I'll subtract the 6, right? And then divide by the 2. So over here, same thing, I would divide by 2. So then I got k is equal to S minus 2z divided by 2. And that's all it is. Okay? So don't make it harder than it is. All right? Stay focused on what you're trying to solve for. And if you got to, make it a different color so that you know that that's your goal, do it. All right? And that's it for today. And hope this helps. You got any questions? Let me know.